Everybody, thank you very much for being here this morning, and welcome to all of you who are joining us online. It's a wonderful privilege to share this opportunity to be here with others. And if you are here, I know there's a number of folks right here in the front row. I love that the folks from Covenant Community are right there in the front row, because Episcopalians are very shy of the front row, and you have shown us the way. I'm going to try the discipline of being very brief with my remarks. We're all going to do that, so there's plenty of time for questions. But I want to commend you. You've got a couple of things on your seats, and I know that Christine will talk about one of them, but I'm going to talk about this first of all, the Future Church Task Force report. And I'm not going to go through this, obviously, page by page, but it is designed for you to take home and read at your leisure. There's a lot here. And I want to give thanks for the task force members who worked on this report. They read 40 different papers or chapters of books and so on. Lots of reading and research and lots of discussion. Amelia Baker, Luke Barton, Melanie Harden, Missy McMorris, who is the chair, Bill Sullivan, Joshua Smith, and myself and Andy Barnett. So do take a look at this, and there is a list of readings at the back of this report. It is intended for you to take some time with, and we'll be emailing out a digital copy of this tomorrow morning. So just to offer you a very high level of what you'll see in this report and how it fits in with our Future of Our Block conversation, essentially the vision that you will read in this booklet is a vision for our long-term, vitality as a parish. Our desire to be on this block as a worshiping community of faith for the decades to come. It also lays out our long-term capacity, as best as we can see it today, at least today, to financially resource our life as a church in the decades to come. With that, it has a vision for this city block as a place of vitality, vibrant activity, community building, connections of all sorts, for all sorts of people who will come here for all sorts of reasons. So in many ways, it's a threefold vitality. The life of a parish church, the life of a city that may make home here in different ways, as we already have here on our block, particularly with our partners, Covenant Community and Midtown Assistance Center. We already are a mixed economy, if you like, and then the ways that we can financially resource that. So it's an ambitious and hopeful vision for vitality for the decades to come. It is, of course, by its nature, a sort of not quite a Hail Mary, but it's a pass into the future that who knows where it's going to land, because there's so much that is unknown. But it is hopeful, and we offer that as Easter people. So in many ways, the invitation and the vision that you see in that report is an understanding of what it means to diversify the urban church the decades of this century. As we've seen, the decades that precede us, Midtown has changed radically from the days of 1903, when people from St. Luke's and St. Philip's wanted a church out on the edge of town or out in the country. Things have changed a little bit. We see a vibrant path. We see a path to vibrancy and vitality here for decades to come. I want to be clear about that. Things will change, no doubt, but we believe there is a vibrant future for all saints, for all ages and stages of life, all kinds of diversities of people and backgrounds, the same kind of diversity, yet even more than we enjoy today. But noting how that population around us and across the country is becoming more diverse in those who affiliate with religious traditions like the Episcopal Church and those who do not, we also see a path ahead of us in being a vibrant community in lots of other ways, in addition to being a faith community. As I mentioned in my sermon, we have a vision to be a both-and presence in this city, a both-and city block, a both-and church. So both a place for church members to worship, grow in their faith, raise their children, care for one another, minister alongside each other to meet the needs of the world. So both that, all those things we love today, and a place where we can create new ways of sharing life on this block without forsaking what we love and cherish today. If you remember nothing else from all I'm going to say, it's a both and vision. So the future we see is one where we will learn to successfully adapt to meet the opportunities for growth before us. There's a lot in this report. I do encourage you to read it. I do encourage you to share it. I do encourage you to ask questions about it. I just wanted to pull out 4 specific examples, a couple of which I already mentioned in my sermon. But we look up to the Northern California and Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. They found ways of monetizing new forms of membership, something called Grace Arts. You may have seen an article about it in the New York Times. Over 800 households subscribe to different tiers of membership at Grace Arts for wellness classes, art events, special guided tours. That's 800 households compared to 550 church-going households. One of my favorite things about that change at Grace is their average age dropped by about 20 years in 2 years, a period of time. So they've opened up to the city, found a way to monetize that, and interestingly, what they spend on staff is almost the same amount that we spend on staff per week. The interesting comparison. So there's also mission-minded commerce. St. Stephen's in Norwich is one that I've mentioned, the kind of model of having a church cafe, which is we can find in all sorts of places, particularly in Europe, but also across the United States, a pay-what-you-can kind of model, where people who are recipients today become workers tomorrow. And it's that kind of operation that finds it's commercially viable by opening a sort of a parallel catering service, a catering company. And people say, if I'm going to cater a party at home or at an event space, let me choose that. Because by choosing that company, by that commercial enterprise, I'll be doing some good in the world. So lots of examples like that. Or residential intentional communities. St. Mark's Episcopal Church in Philadelphia has a small group of young adults who live on the property, who worship together, who eat together, who have a life of ministry in the church together, and also serve out in the city together. When we read these kind of examples, we imagine what could it be like to have that kind of community here on this block, and that's one of the things that the report imagines. And then again, I mentioned in my sermon, partnerships that put the church on the map. Now, Inverness Foodstuff and Nest Bank in Scotland formed a partnership. Knowing that food insecurity was a big concern in Inverness, the church, in a time of decreasing interest in religion, said, let's put ourselves on the map as well as make a difference by partnering someone that people know over an issue that people care about deeply, food insecurity. What might put All Saints on the map? Just 4 examples. So the report is a long-term vision, and it thinks about a bridge to get us there. You'll see at the front of the report a set of recommendations, and the staff at the moment, having heard feedback from the vestry, are now offering their own feedback, and those recommendations will be finally approved in their revised form in the new year. They're not all going to happen in the next 12 months. Some of them may begin in the next year to 5 years. Some of them are recommendations that are intentionally further down the road. But it's attempting to cast a vision on a longer time frame than we typically would. It's important that we have that vision for vitality, for it to be a diverse city block, because we want that vision for the future of the church in this place to frame how we think about the future of our real estate. We are sure and certain and confident that there is a vital future ahead of us. And we feel pretty confident and sure, maybe not so certain, that it's going to look different to how it does today. And you only have to look backwards to see how different the church was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. But we want that vision, with all the uncertainty that exists, to inform the decisions we'll soon to make about real estate. You'll see in the report a couple of things that we'll look at next week. One is some long-term financial trends. And along with that, we'll take a guided virtual tour of our buildings and grounds to have a look under the hood and see how things are. So that will be what we'll focus on next week. So if you have questions from the report that are based on financials or on the state of our buildings, that will be next week. There's also an environmental stewardship task force that is at work. So our decisions about the block can be informed by those considerations. So the invitation is this, if you kind of put all of this together, is to make changes now at All Saints so that we can be good stewards of the future of this church. Ron Heifetz, an expert in change management at Harvard University, asks, what kind of future will be worth it that people will be willing to take on the pain of change? So let me just say, there's a little bit of pain ahead of us. There'll be change ahead of us, and some of that will be good, will feel good to you, and some of it won't feel good. But we know that if we are serious, which we are, about the longevity of this church, and that we care in our hearts about people who will, in the future, as well as today, call this place their church home, then we know that change is ahead of us. And in the beginning of this process for the block, which was several years ago, we came across this seventh generation principle. Perhaps you've come across that yourself. The decisions we make today result in a sustainable future 7 generations from now. I don't know about you, but I don't tend to think in 7 generations from now. I tend to think about what's next? What did I do yesterday and what's coming up tomorrow? What would I be like without Google Calendar? But to think about 7 generations means that we take as seriously our commitment to the future as the people who built that church building on West Preacher and North Avenue, who intended that church building to be there forever. That's the kind of vision we're thinking about, to have the future generations on our mind. We believe, and I believe, that there's a good 25 years, a generation if you like, for us to prepare for a future, to make changes, including to our finances as a church, which we'll look at next week, so we can sustain All Saints for the long-term future. And you'll see through the next couple of forums, as we get to our final of these 3, that we'll be sharing different visions as they pertain to the block. But I'm going to hand over the mic now, because an essential part of our life of our church, and the way that came to the top of the list, I didn't take any offense when sermons were way down the list, that it was our core ministries. When asked the question in this church, where do you see God at work? The majority of the people in this parish said through our core ministries. And so I'm delighted to say that today we have the leaders of our 4 core ministries here so they can share a word about their sense of the vision and future for their ministries. So Jenny Jobson, who's the Executive Director of Midtown Assistance Center, I'd love you to come forward now, Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon, and good morning. It is such a privilege for MAC to be located on the block. For those of you that don't know, MAC was founded in 1986 on this block by a collaboration of hardworking All Saints parishioners like Martha Stern, Elizabeth Robertson, Sue Mobley. All had this vision of assisting neighbors, but doing it more efficiently and more effectively. And so they came together with 4 other Midtown downtown congregations, and Midtown Assistance Center was founded and located on the block, and from 1986 to 1994. And we were so thankful to be able to return to an expanded space in 2022. I think one of the things that COVID taught us and identified for us was that the population of low-income working families that we serve, the people that are doing all the hard jobs in our community, are really isolated, and they were very isolated during COVID. MAC, like other ministries, was forced to go remote to protect our volunteers, our staff, and the people that we serve. But we found that people were isolated and lonely, and while we can provide assistance remotely, for us, it's not the highest level of assistance, because one of the most important things is to be present for people in need and to provide opportunities for them to come in for appointments. It's more than just providing assistance. It's often listening to them, being able to make referrals. And so being able to do that provides an opportunity for people to be served well, but also for community members to engage in our work. We've developed friendships with parishioners from the different congregations along Peachtree Street, but also neighbors at Norfolk Southern, Emory Midtown, the Ellis Center that's down the street. It's important for people to engage in our work. All of the 4 core ministries provide opportunities for people to put their faith into action, which I think is really important, being able to see your faith and be able to provide services to other folks. And I know for MAC, we have a very small staff of 8. But we have a volunteer team of more than 50, and so our work's not possible without volunteers engaging in our service. And I can stand here today and say that All Saints parishioners have been the most active group of ministers and volunteers in our organization since we began. MAC is focused on preventing homelessness and hunger, and so we do that by providing rent assistance and utility assistance, but also food pantry assistance. Transportation, new worker support, helping people with all these things that seem like small things, but they're necessary. You might be able to get a job, but not get to the job or be addressed appropriately. So those are all things that we're working towards. The vision for MAC, being here, being centrally located is really important. You can look around Midtown. I've been living, in the city for the last 25 years, and I know how much Midtown and downtown have changed. I also know that affordable housing is such a crisis in the city, so the people that we served 25 years ago that actually lived in the neighborhood can no longer afford to live in the neighborhood. They're living south and southwest and a little bit northwest of the city. And so for us, we're expanding our geographic service area in order to embrace the people that really need our services. And so we can no longer go into just one neighborhood to provide those services. Being centrally located the last 2 years, being so close to MARTA so people can easily access MAC, they can access Threads, Covenant. We're also not very far from Redeemer, and First Pres has an outreach program, so people can come into Midtown and downtown and receive a variety of different services. We're looking just to grow our services to be able to meet the needs as they continue to grow. And being centrally located has been really important for us, and it's just been so wonderful and rewarding to be able to work with the core ministries and All Saints parishioners. So I invite you to reach out if you haven't had a tour of our space. If you're interested in doing volunteer work, we definitely need as many volunteers as we can use helping us build relationships. So thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. I'd love to invite Christine Lyle, Executive Director of Covenant Community.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm told I have 5 minutes, so I'm going to zoom, okay? Thank you so much, Jenny, and thank you for all the work that you and MAC do. So thank you, Simon, and the vestry and the task force for allowing us this time and space to briefly share our vision for the future. Our team was awe-inspired to read the survey results from your Future of the Block discerning process. And we are grateful that Covenant remains at the forefront of your hearts and minds, souls, and spirits. We thank you so very much, and we love you and appreciate you. So I'm just returning from Dallas, Texas. I got in at 1 a.m. from the mega national American Association of Christian Counselors for their Stand Strong conference. Thousands of clinicians and clergy from all over the nation convened to decree and declare our rightful position in the market. And I can tell you that we have a reservoir of knowledge, resources, and support to catapult us into the future. And so despite this fractured foot, we are, as Covenant Community, standing strong. Team, please stand up. Our residents are here, our staff is here, any board members who are here. Amen. Thank you. Sit down fast because I only got 5 minutes. Healing and transformation, hope and recovery for more than 4 decades. That's what the miracle on Spring Street has been. As you know, thousands of men have reclaimed their lives through our residential life stabilization program, which has been a refuge for men who want nothing more than to reclaim their lives. As our Director of Community Engagement, Sean Mason, shared with you just last week, and I've amplified since I started 4 years ago, the daunting data of addiction impacting 1 in 10 of us. And we've witnessed some of our very own lose their battle just this year. So as the numbers continue to soar and overdose-related deaths continue to rise, we recognize the importance of high-quality treatment in safe spaces. We are clinically effective CARF accredited, and state licensed. And we know that recovery is profoundly impacted by environment. A secure, hold on, I'm going to switch over my page. A secure and tranquil space is necessary. As we look toward the future, our covenant community has found strength and inspiration in the story of Nehemiah, Simon. Much like Nehemiah, who faced the daunting task of rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, we are reminded that great works for restoration require faith, wisdom, and the willingness to adapt to God's vision, Martha. Nehemiah 2:18 says, "Let us rise up and build." So they strengthened their hands for this good work. Today we are called to do the same, to rise and build anew. That's why, after prayerful consideration and our own year-long discernment process, together with our board, I see a board member back there, so Greg, together with our board, many of whom are here today, Covenant has been exploring the idea of relocating our residential program to a more serene and supportive setting, one where men can participate in agricultural programming, equine therapy, and other evidence-based interventions to rebuild their lives, but in essence, to build an actual community, a community for them and their families. But hear this and hear me well. Covenant is not leaving. Covenant is not leaving. In fact, many may not know this, but Covenant is much larger than our residential program. We have grown exponentially over the past 4 decades. We facilitate at this time 5 signature programs. And one of our signature programs is the Recovery Resources of Atlanta Midtown. That's the RAM, located right in Tate Hall. The RAM has been a lifeline for thousands of individuals every month, offering critical peer recovery support to those experiencing or at risk of experiencing substance use challenges. Like Nehemiah's faithful workers who remained in the city to restore its walls, the RAM program must remain here in Midtown, where the people we serve are all around us. Tate Hall, or wherever All Saints tells us to go, will likely continue to remain on campus as a hub for this life-changing work. Our vision is simple yet profound. While the residential program may move to a more conducive location for intensive residential programming, Covenant's heart through the RAM and an admissions unit will stay firmly planted on this block, with your permission, of course. The same block where God has called us to serve, to rebuild lives alongside MAC, Threads, and Refugee Ministries. We anticipate continuing insight dinners, Wednesday night suppers, and welcome table, and of course our signature events, which you see on your chairs. Our celebration of memories and hopes, which is annually in September. Our celebration of possibility, which is in May. Our Thanksgiving dinner, sponsored by the Men of Hope. We invite you to join us on this journey, lending your time, talent, and treasure as we, like Nehemiah, strengthen our hands for this good work. Together, we will continue to build on this rich legacy of faith, hope, love, and community. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Christine. If I'd come in at 1 in the morning, I might ask for a time of quiet prayer to finish this meeting, but thank you for being here. I wonder if I could invite Marcia Mayfield and Louisa Merchant to come up together, the 2 core ministries that have staff positions as part of the All Saints staff. Marcia, I wonder if you'd go first and share about Threads.
Okay. Good morning. It's so great to be here. And I liked what Simon said about both and I've kind of seen that through the thread of the 2 core ministry leaders that talked before. And that's how I think about Threads. You guys know I love Threads, and I think that it's so much more than just providing children with clothing. It is spreading that dignity and spreading that hope. And it's a place, our world is shaking. Our world is moving and shaking all the time. And And Threads has that opportunity to bring a little bit of stability to our families for just a half hour, for 20 minutes, for whatever time that they're there. It is a place of peace and a place of hope. That comes with our volunteers that come. I see a few of them here now that are regulars and that are just, they bring that joy and that hope to Threads environment. And that is what's necessary. That's what makes the difference in the place, shopping with the families and just bringing that direction to the families and a little, to look at things just a little bit differently. So if I had to say, just because I'm talking really fast, if I had to say ways that you can help with Threads, volunteering with Threads is just something that we just really, really need. And you can donate your time, you can donate your money, you can donate new and gently used clothing, but know that it is so much more than just the clothing, that when you come, you are affecting like those generations, you know, that stem for a long time. So just be prayerful. We definitely have plans for the future. We would love to be able to serve our families even more and even deeper. So just be in prayer about how you can possibly serve with us as we continue to be on the block.
Hi, I'm Louisa Merchant. I'm the director of all. She tried to stand back. I was like, we're together, girl. I'm the director of Refugee Ministries here at All Saints, and I think that the Future of the Block report, which is very inspiring, has two focuses. One is to unsilo ourselves here at All Saints, which Simon has been doing an amazing job of helping us accomplish since he arrived. And one is unsiloing ourselves in the world, in the community of Atlanta. So to address the first part, unsiloing ourselves in our community, the core ministries has been working on that. We meet because the core ministries all address the same things. We address poverty. We address violence because poverty is violence. And we address racial transformation and justice, racial justice. So one of the ways that we've been unsiloing ourselves is the directors or participants from each ministry meets once a month to talk about how we can help each other and how we can collaborate. We do collaborate. Over COVID, one of our refugee families lost everything in a house fire. And when we were addressing that, the apartment complex said 7 other families have lost everything in a house fire. So Covenant Community and Refugee Ministries work to replace all foundationally needed items for all 8 of those families. Because when we go out into the community, it's not just a refugee family, it's other people that we encounter. Last week, we welcomed a family from Venezuela, and the first stop that they did on Saturday with a volunteer was come to Threads. I'm pointing to you, and you're not the director of Threads. The first stop that they came to was Threads. Sorry. Slightly nervous. I'm wearing a gay pride dress, come on. And happy Pride, y'all. So then also for Midtown Assistance Center, we have crossover all the time. People go to Midtown Assistance Center and then they can stop by Threads and get clothes, or people need food and they go there from Threads. So we have this continuum. And the heart of Refugee Ministries is volunteerism. And volunteerism is the key to unsiloing ourselves in the community. So Refugee Ministries has 150 volunteers, but I want to point out, I did the numbers yesterday because the numbers in there are so good. There are 56 volunteers in Refugee Ministries right now who give a minimum of 12 hours of volunteerism, either through 2 of our programs, online, our Zoom tutoring program, if you need to be at home, and our new initiative, which is resettlement teams to welcome new families. I mentioned we welcomed a family from Venezuela last week. We're welcoming a family from Burma this week. Out of 56 of those volunteers who are giving more than 12 hours of their time in 3 months, half of those people don't go to All Saints, which is not a criticism of All Saints at all. That's a compliment because it shows a way that we can bring people in. And All Saints, people hear about it more than you think that they do. 10 of those volunteers are youth, and just coincidentally, it's not like we don't have youth from All Saints volunteer in our programs. We do, but all 10 of those youth right now happen to not be All Saints parishioners. So it's a way in. And when we have our reflection pieces, like thank you Ann Stewart and Ellen and Richard Hill for leading our reflection groups for our resettlement teams, they are Christian formation experiences for our church members. But in January, we're also going to have secular reflection experiences. So people who want to come in and do this work but may not feel comfortable identifying as a Christian are welcome here too, and that is our goal. Thank you.
So we're going to open up to questions. I wonder if I can ask Annette to help me by getting the microphone to move around the room. Before you start speaking, just wait for the microphone to come and nestle on your chin like this so that you can be heard by the folks online. Just to note, it is not typical for a church to have 4 vibrant and essential, decades-long ministries like this, so immersed and enmeshed in the life of a community of faith. It is not typical. I have numerous conversations a year trying to explain to folks why we're not a checkbook church. And we do have a checkbook, by the way, but we don't sort of give away 50,000 or 100,000 or 150,000 a year to very worthy organizations, but we've chosen as a church a good 15 plus years ago to have these core ministries. And hearing how people come to know this community who aren't looking for faith. But as I said in my sermon, maybe faith is going to start looking for them. But what a gift. So any questions that you have for me or for any of the core leaders here, please do ask them. And we've got a good sort of 10 or so minutes to a little bit more than 10 minutes, 13 minutes to engage in conversation together. So anything you want to share. And it doesn't have to be a question. It could be an observation.
On my chin. So, no, I just wanted to say I have visited and experienced all 4 core ministries, actually, and I just want to encourage everyone to volunteer and contribute. I've actually got some stuff in my car waiting to give them even as we speak. But one way I like to give, 2 things, just to respond to Simon. The core ministries is one of the big things, if not the biggest thing that attracted me to All Saints. I looked on the website, which is expertly maintained, and it was easy to see that All Saints, in comparison, quite frankly, to some other churches, was doing something in the community, and that's what I wanted to be involved in. I didn't know anything about All Saints or its history or whatever. I just saw that it was doing something. So that's what attracted to me. So that was the main thing. And so therefore, I've tried to give to, I do give to each core ministry. And I told somebody that, every month, everybody gets a turn. So I just make sure that they all get contributed to. So someone said they hadn't heard that method of giving, so I'm giving that to you. So anyway, I just encourage you. They're a great ministry, all of them. Please do.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. Other comments or questions, Martha? There we go.
I get credit where I don't deserve it, but like I want to tell Mac, I didn't get here until '88. And those folks were already up and going. But I did hang out and scream around with them a lot. That was good. And the other thing I want to tell you is the first time the conversation started getting raised about covenant residential moving away, my initial reaction was, ah! That is a life threatening reaction. People living where they need to live and having more room to do what families, we're now moving into families, are able to do is huge. Now, if y'all start not hanging out around here as recovery folks, you know, on a non-residential basis, then we have to talk, and you're going to be in big trouble. That's it. I just wanted to say that was my initial reaction, and I'm over it.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, Martha, because I think many people may have a similar reaction and may go on a similar journey in their heart and mind. And we're, in a way, we're kind of catching up with each other, hearing about the different discernment processes that have been going on together. Other thoughts and questions? Break through your unnatural shyness. There we go, Barbara.
I'm just curious, as we celebrate our core ministries, what can we do to support people with new missions and visions so there's always a vibrancy of, especially when we think of young people and middle-aged people, which I no longer am. What can we do to create a community where those visions and missions are welcomed and encouraged and supported?
I'm so glad you asked. Because as you look through, and you wouldn't have been able to know this, Barbara, but it was a question that we had too. And it struck us that at All Saints, we're very thoughtful. And we take that as a pat on the back, how thoughtful we are. And it's good to be thoughtful. It's good to be thoughtful when you're thinking about a whole city block and all of that. But sometimes we can be slow to innovate. So interestingly, I spent some time reading the last 23 years of strategic planning at All Saints. At a monastery, I needed to pray afterwards. But it was fascinating to see that the conversation about having innovative worship at All Saints at some point on the weekend has been happening for 20 years until it happened. It's been a stated desire, just like the conversation to reach out to the neighborhood, just like the conversation to have some form of a coffee shop cafe. It's been going on for a couple of decades, and we were very thoughtful about innovating in our worship. But we anticipate that, and I'm trying to find if I can see it here, but it's something that we call a sort of ministry lab. There it is. It's under children, youth, and adult spirituality, but it says here on page 7 of this report. So one of the recommendations to the vestry was this: create a ministry lab where parishioners can pioneer new program and activity ideas within a supportive and affirming architecture, which could be anything, which could be a new core ministry. We may not call it a core ministry, who knows? It could be any kind of ministry enterprise. And we think that's key. And the difficult thing is, in a large church with a large staff, is to shift that culture from what can the staff do, who are pretty maxed right now, to how can the staff support what the parish might do. But if you look back, including yourself, Barbara, if I may say it, if we look back at the history of some of these core ministries and other ministries that I was not here for the beginning of, it has been the parishioners, the laity, the members of this church who have been the essential element for that to succeed, to come onto our horizon. So that conversation is happening all over the church, beyond All Saints. And we feel that there's some structure that we could have in place to make us a little bit better equipped to support parishioners and people beyond the parish in making new possibilities come into reality. Lovely, and they're the same, probably the same ones here, but thank you. Extra marks for reading the report. I love that. We've got about 5 more minutes. Any other questions or comments about any of this, including for our core ministry leaders? The mic is on its way.
Simon, in all candor, I'm like totally overwhelmed by this, and I don't even know where to start. And I keep looking for the top 5 things, the top 10 things, this is our best guess, this is what we're going to do next. And so how would you all recommend that I change my approach to how I'm going to read this?
Well, I mean, apart from the one obvious, just really begin on page 1, because just in the sense of an easy thing is the recommendations are on 2 pages alone, and then there's a summary on 2 pages. But really, it comes down, as we were having, as a task force went through its different meetings, we came to the realization that we, like the most churches in America, have grown up with a membership model of the church, which is simply this. People are looking for church for a whole variety of reasons, and they become members and support the church as such. Members, we're just in the middle of that, of course, with our canvas. And what we realized is that the future that we cast, particularly for an urban church, is to be a both-and church. And it'd be different, perhaps, if we were out in the burbs somewhere, or if we were a rural church. Maybe not so much as a rural church, but certainly here as a downtown church. I think the encouragement I'd have, Peggy, would be to open up that mindset from membership, a dominant membership model of belonging to All Saints, or this block, to that both and. That it's a place for church members, what we would call parishioners, and it's a place for the city. Now, if you go out into the Kennedy Courtyard, there's an inscription, I think, in honoring that gift that it is for the people of Atlanta and the parish of All Saints, something along those lines. That was the foresight of the folks that were a part of that capital campaign work during Jeffrey's tenure, that courtyard itself, that our beautiful green oasis that is at the heart of how we've been thinking the future of our block committee has been thinking about the future of this city block, is that at the heart of it is this beautiful green oasis that exists not solely for those who are church members. We never wanted to be selfish about the gift entrusted to us, but for the city as well. And so I think the simplest version is, if we have been historically, whatever the value has been, 80-20, 75-25, eventually will we be 50-50 with the city? In the city, for the city, would be that phrase. So and in terms of what should the priorities be, this task force is trying to get us up to 50,000 feet and take a look to the horizon. Then a vestry would continue to set the next strategic plan that would name the priorities that come first. And there are some things that would bubble up on the horizon, first of all. But it's a great question. And if you find yourself, just put it under your pillow and sleep, and it will start to seek in. Maybe a final comment or question. Okay, so I see 2. We can do 2, for sure. Wendy.
Right. So as we enter the holiday season, if you all can just keep the core ministries in your mind, each of the 4 core ministries has stuff coming up. MAC needs canned food. Threads has the coat drive. The refugee ministries has their angel tree coming up, and the Thanksgiving dinner here is just so tremendous. So just a plea, if you want to get involved, that would be great.
Thank you, Wendy. I think Sarah, I think Sarah Hill should have the last word, don't you?
I think that this is too big a question, actually. I assume that the heads of the core ministries have read this report in advance. I would love to know their response to it.
They have not read it in advance.
Okay,
And we
question
didn't
over.
imagine that, because so much of this report focuses on the life of the parish and the life of the block, but we have been in conversation with the core ministries about the future of the block for the last several years. I would love it if people would read this report. It would give me great joy if we do so. So let me just point us to what's ahead next week. So we didn't want to, as you imagine, this is a terrible analogy, but it's already come out of my mind, so it's going to come through my mouth. You don't go dating and talking to somebody that you might want to sort of make long-term plans with, and on the first date, tell them about all your problems. It won't be good. So we didn't want to begin a vision process for the future of the block and just take you through the grisly tour of our buildings and grounds and like opening up the wall and say, well, you're going to need I don't need a plumber in here, whatever else it is. But next week we look under the hood, essential. We had to begin with vision because God calls us forward. And God's vision is not contained by, no matter how much a roof is leaking, God calls us forward. And we needed to listen to one another for that and learn about what's happening in Midtown, and we have done that. So next week, though, we will look with the cold light of day at our buildings and grounds. And Danny Johnson, the chair of our Buildings and Grounds Committee, will take us on that guided tour and take a look at the reality that has always been here, that the maintenance list of any church, short of a small selection of multi-million-dollar, multi-billion-dollar endowed churches, is always greater than the amount you can cover in a given year. That's just every church, pretty much, apart from some notable exceptions. So we're going to look at our buildings and grounds, and we're going to look at a long-term picture of our finances, on the single assumption that if nothing changed in our financial management in terms of our incomings and outgoings, what would the future look like? And you can probably guess what it looks like. Just have a look at look at inflation, example. You get an indication that things do need to change for us long term, and we're prepared for that. So that's next week. Please don't let it be an empty hall next week. It'd be very depressing. It's just me and the senior warden talking about what we already know. Then the third week, we will look at some visions for the block, some that we've taken, and the Future of the Block Committee has worked hard through the summer, really hard, through into the fall, in trying to, and working with our architects, Hauser Walker, to get a sense of all of those ideas and making them into tangible possibilities for the block. It is not the plan that we have, but it is the thinking that we've been doing. And we went on a retreat with the vestry last month to talk that all through. So we present that to you 2 Sundays from now. And all of this will be available, of course, online. Thank you for being here today. Special thanks to our core ministry leaders. We give thanks for your witness in this place. Thank you.